Hope we're all doing well this morning. I feel like this is the earliest I've done a Slayerfest thing in ever, maybe. I meant to paint my name. Ooh. Ashley, can you do me a favor? Is Charisma live on MyCon? Because I think she might already be live over there. Oh no, here she is. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Uh, Good. I was stressing a bit because I didn't know where you were. I'm like, we're 15 minutes late. And then I put up a thing. What is going on with these? Wait, how many? Look at all these different. I did not mean to
Charisma.
be. Okay. Hi. Hold on 1 second. I need to find like the normal. Uh,
There
God
you go.
bless it.
Hi.
All right. Hi. Hi, guys. Oh my gosh. I put on a thing and it said, go now. We're live now. And then we weren't live. And I'm like, I must have messed up the time. It's just,
I
I didn't know. And I love that people are saying, like, our queen. Oh my God.
Charisma, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. Wait,
Yeah.
so can I tell everyone the funny thing you did say about our previous recording?
Yeah, please.
Oh, you did? Okay. Did it
I
jog your
listened.
memory?
What?
Okay.
Yes, it did. And it was during the pandemic. I know exactly where I was in the room, in the house when I was, yes, I remember it vividly, but I didn't remember. But what was it that was
I
impactful
appreciated
for
the like
you?
it did make me laugh. Everyone, Charisma was just very honest because I was like, oh, we've recorded together. It was like, oop, I have no recollection of that. And it made me genuinely like laugh. I appreciated that you weren't gonna bullshit me. You were just like, oh, I
I
don't really
mean, it's
remember.
true. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's really hard. It's, I don't know what it is, but it really gets in my way a lot in the sense that I remember being on, I think it was on Angel at the time, and it was an executive event, and we had to do some kind of like thing, some kind of promo on the lot, like while we were shooting, and you're meeting, and executives are coming and going, and I'm very singular minded. I really don't know. I probably should see somebody about this, but I don't know how to combination platter things very well. So if I'm there at work, I am so focused on the lines and the scene that I have to do that if executives come and I meet them, I'm not going to necessarily, and I
Mhm.
should, would not necessarily remember that engagement or whatever. And there's no excuse to not remember having done the podcast, but I think during the pandemic, there was just so much going on for me emotionally, and my son had come to live with me full time, and there was so much uncertainty. And then I think I was up for some job that I was going to do in Bulgaria, and I'd done a one-off there. And then it was, are we going to go? And I was going to go to Egypt with my family. There was just so much commotion going. I didn't remember doing it, and it was also kind of building up to be right before I
Yeah.
made my statement. My statement. So there's just so much going on in my mind. So I apologize. I don't do combination platter very well. It's like the minute it comes in, it will like go off, and there's no excuse. And
No,
it's like
I don't
my
want you to think I
honest,
wasn't like offended.
like
I really genuinely made me laugh. No.
you should be offended. And I know that many people are offended. And I have no excuse. I am terrible with retaining certain things. And it really like alienates people and makes them, you know, angry kind of. And you were so darling about it. You're even darling about it now and so forgiving. But I honestly don't know what that is with my brain. Like I just can't.
You know,
Um,
I have ADD
mold it.
and I smoke a lot of weed. That like it definitely makes my brain like no like
Does that help? Maybe I should smoke weed. My son tells me this all the time. Mom, if anybody should smoke weed, it's you. Because maybe
you
it
know
is that I'm so high
that's so
strung
funny. I've told
that
my
I
mom that
can't.
too, and she doesn't like what I mean, my mother is a lot older, but I'm always like, it would help you chill out. She's like, don't say that to me.
No, I think it's funny. You know, if
Mm,
it's not like I haven't tried it. It's not like I haven't done gummies.
mm.
I don't like
Yeah,
the
yeah. Some people
impact
just
that it
don't like
has
it.
on me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's not my jam. I don't like being anxious either, so I don't know what the solution is.
Xanax, that
Meditation,
helped
I
me for a
hear.
little bit.
I mean, I have it. I could use it, but it's always too late. By the
Sometimes,
time I
yeah,
need it,
sometimes I would take it. When I lived in New York, I was like way more anxious and I didn't like smoke as much. So I do. And like sometimes I wouldn't
uh
like it would make me feel like a little too drunk. And it's like, wait, I'm at work. Like I don't want it to make me, yeah.
Xanax, yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, especially as a performer, why Xanax is, you know, Klonopin. Like when I am I'm anxious, and there's actually, you know, this is kind of like inside information, very personal, but hey, I'm an open book. The reality of the situation is, for me, when I'm in flight or fight,
Mm.
um, I can't retain. And I remember being on the set of Malibu Shores, and I think I've told this story before, where I had one line as like my house on Thursday. And I literally would say, out of anxiety, every other um, day of the week except for Thursday. And when I went to see somebody about it, they're like, "Here, try Klonopin." And Klonopin apparently is a mind eraser, which is like a, you know, I'm under the direction of a doctor. I can't function like that
Yeah.
at all. At all. You have to be present. You have to be animated. You have to be receiving and performing. And it just wasn't the answer either. But then I discovered, I found a psychiatrist. He's passed away now, but I found a psychiatrist who I adore, and he told me about a beta blocker, and it's the LA Philharmonic. A lot of the performers, they have anxiety and performance anxiety, and so what they do, the beta blockers calm your it's like a physiological response
Okay.
system, like it slows your blood pressure down, but it doesn't affect
Huh.
you from the neck up. So you're not drunk, you're not foggy, you're not any of that, and you can actually calm your like your body calm. So tell your mom. I don't take it every day. I take it if I have an audition and I
Mm.
feel that anxiety coming up. If I know I'm going to be in a high pressure situation, I probably should take it every day. But it does really help, and it's not a narcotic, and it's not, you know, you don't risk
Yeah.
being
Huh, that's good. That's good to know,
addicted or
Charisma.
anything
Thank
like
you. My mom, yeah.
See your doctor for a beta
Welcome to Ian
blocker.
Charisma talking about antidepressants and medication. um, yeah, why
I
not?
mean, if it helps.
I told you this before. You will be, I may be a little tickled. My mother is a 76-year-old Puerto Rican woman, and she's the one that got me into Buffy, and like you are her favorite. Like she was very excited that I was talking. She's like, oh, she's so pretty.
Where is this woman? We talk about her a lot, and yet I don't get to
Okay,
see
I'll
her.
send you one later.
I want a picture.
She was like, can I watch? But like she doesn't have Instagram. I was like, hey, not really, but I can send you it after.
I don't think it's. Aww,
um,
that's so
and it's funny,
sweet.
I was telling someone how, so my grandma, her mom, like didn't know what the show was. So she would just, she's a little Puerto Rican lady. So she would call it La Buffy or Doña Buffy is what she would call the show, which I was, right?
Doña Buffy. I love it.
Yeah.
Isn't that like madam? Isn't that
Yeah.
like a sophisticated way of saying, yeah, don't, and a little bit, it's got a little
It
bit
does,
of
yeah.
an Italian vibe to it, don't you? I just really identify with the whole Latin community. It's just crazy. I don't know. My grandfather is
Yeah.
supposedly from the Portugal Strait, so it kind of makes sense. He refused to speak English when he was kind of adopted by an American family, and they kind of teased him about his accent and would want him to sing like Spanish songs and all that stuff. Are you having a DC at 11:30 in
Yes.
the morning? I'm having a coffee, but a DC. I am a big fan. But
Okay,
in
wait,
the
I'm gonna sound like
morning,
I'm
first
500 fucking
thing.
years old, but coffee makes me jittery. I don't know why it makes me jittery, so I just always have like Diet Coke or a matcha.
That's hilarious. I mean, Diet Coke is it's my favorite soda for sure. But anyway, I do. I really,
I mean,
I love the Latin community. I do. I love the
well, we know that.
LGBTQAI community. That is why we are a
Charisma.
match.
Okay, because I've been seeing Sarah do all these like public interviews, but I know like you've had these interactions for like the last like 20 years at cons, right? So like when did you realize like
Yes.
did you know when the show was on, or did it like was it at cons when you realized like you had a big like LGBTQ following?
When did I realize? Oh, I'm so sorry. I have no idea when it like became apparent. I think I don't know, because to be honest with you, Cordelia, when out in the world, when it first came out, like the first 3 seasons,
Mm.
people didn't talk to me. You know, like fans didn't come up to me. They didn't. I think they probably thought she was scary and would like give them a tongue lashing or say something really insensitive and alienate, people. So I never really had a lot of fan interactions. And then I would go to cons and,
Yeah.
obviously I would see and engage with fans, but I never knew like that specific niche group was really into me per se. But I don't know. Um, I think I think the impact really hit me when I went to New York, and my brother, my stepbrother, he had a partner, and I went to visit him. And while my brother was in the bathroom, he leaned in to tell me, like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm like a diehard Buffy fan, and
Oh, I
especially
love
your
that.
character. And let me tell you why. And then when he kind of explained to me what Cordelia has meant to him as a gay man, and how it gave him insight into how a bully probably feels. It gave him empathy towards a bully, and it gave him insight into, also saying your piece, saying your mind, speaking your mind, and, you know, being authentically you. Uh, that I think he kind of just articulated to me, like, I've always kind of had this, and maybe you can answer this. I always kind of was baffled by, why does the gay community really like bitches so much? Like, what is it about liking bitches so much when they've been targeted and bullied by bitches and assholes? Like, I never understood
So
what is this, like Stockholm syndrome?
So wait,
Like, what?
I once interviewed Emma Caulfield for this website called Junkie when she was doing WandaVision press tours, and I actually like brought this up to her. I was like, oh, like you have a huge like following in the gay community, and she was like, oh yeah, yeah, I do know, and I was like, what do you think about you is what appeals to the gay community? And she was like, she said the same thing you did. She was like, can you answer that? Like I don't know that I'm equipped to answer it, and I told her, which I feel like applies to you in almost a little bit of a different way, but the same, where like she was really good at playing someone who spoke her mind, but felt outside the group and wanted to fit in. I feel like Cordelia very much is that, but doesn't care about fitting in. Cordelia is like, fuck you, if you don't like me, that's tough shit. And like, that's what a lot of like, I know that's what I would strive to. I'm not quite that way, but I wish I could be that way. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could be like, I don't give a shit what you think about me. And like, that's what Cordelia projects, and what you do such a good job in your acting at projecting, that I think that's what attracts gay men specifically to the character of Cordelia, because she does just speak her mind. She looks great. And like, isn't like, she'll also like put herself in the mix if she needs to be. She's like, all right, I'll help. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like Cordelia chooses to be part of that group. They weren't really her friends, you know, but she's like, all right, I'll help. And then eventually she just becomes part of the gang. And I think that's like something that draws gay men in, is that like she just speaks her mind. She's still caring about fashion, but yeah, she'll help you save the world too.
Let's be honest, it was really
Listen, I was like going through some images the other day, because like, you know, I'm screenshotting pictures of Buffy and Angel all the time for content for social.
Yeah.
And like, Charisma, this is a credit to you. I feel like you look good in everything they put you in, which like sometimes they picked like wild outfits, but like you made all of them work, which is impressive.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. I remember, I think it was season 2 of Angel, and we were doing a gallery shoot. And I think Sex in the City was kind of really big at that point. It was like exploding. And, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker, I felt, was the ultimate fashionista on that show. And
Patricia Fields? Patricia Fields?
What is it? Patricia Fields? Yeah, it was Patricia Fields. And she would put these crazy prints and colors and things together, and it would just like be fabulous, right? So I remember being inspired by that, and I'm wearing like these purple tuxedo pants and this really loud purpley whatever printed shirt. And I thought that would just be a fantastic, you know, because Cordelia was just all about staying up on it, right? And I look back at that photo gallery and I go, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? That was like the worst, ugliest, terriblest. Ooh, listen, like somebody needed to intervene and go, charisma, come on. But you know what I mean? It was just it was such a terrible, you know, attempt to, you know, imitate, you know, the Carrie Bradshaw character from Sex and the City and be able to like deliver like Sarah Jessica Parker. It just didn't happen. But I was so influenced by that show, and I tried to bring that into Cordelia. And I think another influence for, as I'm thinking about this, is in terms of like Cordelia's acting or the way she would behave with Xander specifically. I didn't know this at the time, but when I looked back on a scene that I saw, there's a moment where we're in a graveyard, Xander and Cordelia are in a graveyard, and I'm like, get out, whatever. And I watched that back and I said, oh my gosh, you were subliminally influenced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus as
Elaine
Ellen
on Seinfeld.
on Elaine on Seinfeld. And I would just be super obnoxious and I think that Cordelia's point of view is always like wherever she is, she's super there. She's 100% present where she is. And it's either this is messed up, this is total bullshit, or oh my God, we're gonna die, or when can I leave? Are we done yet? This isn't about me.
You know, and I often think that like there's a moment in season 3 where like you're only in the episode for like a little bit. It's Buffy's birthday. She's lost her powers, and like Cordelia comes in to the library as her and Giles are like crying and arguing, and like your character is able, like, I think this is, I mean, a credit to your acting as well, is like she comes in and she's like, oh, I need a book for a report, blah 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 blah, and then she sees Buffy's upset and she's like, is the world ending? Because I'm not gonna bother if the world's ending. And then like she turns and Buffy's crying and says, Cordelia, can you drive me home? And your acting of switching it from like being like, oh, whatever, and to being, oh yeah, of course I will. Like that's, I don't know. I feel like that's like such a good moment in early Buffy seasons when like you realize Cordelia very much is like part of the group, because she's like not joking. She sees Buffy's upset and is just like, yeah, I'll drive you home. Like, I don't know. I think that's like the type of acting. Yeah, that's like the type of acting that you did with Cordelia that I always thought was so great, is being able to, in a beat, go back to the serious. Yeah.
Turn on a dime. That's really sweet of you to say. And you know, I've never watched Buffy. I've never gone back and watched it. I tried with my son once, like 1 or 2 episodes, and then he was off in the kitchen, never to be seen again. And I was like, well, that didn't work. And now he's too old and it will never happen. But, you know, I do see those clips, and I love when I get DM'd by the fans and they send like there's this one account, I think it's BTVS Moments. I think that's one of the accounts where they'll do, and they also do it in Spanish, which I think you'd appreciate. Is they'll do a screenshot and then they'll do the scene of that screenshot, and then
cool.
the next will be in Spanish. And I just think it's so well done, and I love the scene choices that they make. And I think that at one point was a scene that I did see on that account. And I have to say, I'm really proud of that scene, and I think what the way you explain it, it's true, and I'm grateful, and I'm just also grateful that you appreciate it, but also that a scene like that was written so that you can be, you can get into Cordelia and you can accept her, you know, for who she is, which is
and like, yeah, there's just, you know, and we just went through, we finished Angel season 1 for the podcast, and like, I will say, you are definitely the thing that makes that season, like, some of it's a little like, the like plots are a little rough, but like, I've been saying this doing the podcast. I think you and James Marsters both have the benefit of, you guys are such good actors. You have chemistry with everyone you have a scene with. So like, if there's like a stupid throwaway character for the episode that like, you know is only going to be there for a plot, once it's like, oh, they're talking to Cordelia, then it's like, oh, well, now I'm more interested, because like, you would bring, like you would bring it, and it would just be like, make it so much more enjoyable.
Oh, thank you. You know, that first season was interesting because it was obviously Cordelia was now higher up on the totem pole, and I did have to have more responsibility. But one of the things that was, I don't know if people watching kind of picked up on, the first season is really guest star driven. So if you were guest starring on our show, that episode really does put your performance on a platform, and it's, you know, you have the ability to serve, and so either you fall flat or you don't. But like, that was one of the greatest things for people that were coming in on the show. If you were trying to make a name for yourself, like I think Jeremy Renner was even on the show, like those episodes were strictly guest star driven. You know, the episodes were used to provide Angel with the mission, which is the premise of the show, and then their relationship between Angel and the guest star. And so a lot of the scenes were about the guest star, and I really don't enjoy that as much. And I don't know, you know, this is not, you know, I'm not a writer, and they're all geniuses, and not to take anything apart from them, but what I find more interesting is when I watch a show where the characters are interacting more with each other, where we understand their relationship with each other. I think that makes it more interesting for the audience, and also for the series regulars. You know, like we get to know more about the backstory of Gunn. We get to learn more about the backstory of, you know, Andy Hallett's character, Lauren. And, you know, I just always find that more interesting. Like, I wanted to know more about Elaine. I wanted to know more. I think that's what one of the things that was so exciting about Seinfeld is that you really get inside their brain.
So, Charisma, when I start my Seinfeld podcast, you're going to guest on, is what you're saying. My Seinfeld podcast.
Your what podcast?
I love Seinfeld.
Okay. It was just really like, I didn't get to watch a lot of television, but leading up into those shows, you know, Friends and Seinfeld were already on the air, and those were like my dates, right? Like that, you know, my schedule revolved around those shows. So I, you know, like most people, had my show and I would be home for it to watch. And so then I got to be on these shows, Buffy and Angel, and I didn't realize that impact and how informed some of those scenes that on those other shows would impact the scenes that I was acting in. And that was a revelation for me.
Oh, hi, Dylan. Tatiana Maslany, who was She-Hulk, she actually said Elaine from Seinfeld was one of her biggest influences acting-wise. Yeah, and I love that, like, someone playing like a superhero character is still influenced by like that.
Yeah. I you know, it's funny, a little side note. I used to see a therapist, and I was on night one day. She was a fantastic, which is kind of funny. But I was in the elevator of the building, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus was seeing the seamstress on the first level. And I was in the elevator. I don't know where she was going. And I was in the elevator with her, and I was like on these shows, and I wanted to squeeze so bad. And I think I may have managed a hello. And she didn't seem very warm. And I was like, God bless it. So why? You know, like I was like, no. Never meet your heroes.
But here I am.
But you know, we're all entitled to have our day. She didn't know, you know, nothing, no judgment. But like I was a little bit bummed that she wasn't that bubbly Elaine like person. Like she was a real person, a real mom with like 900 things to do, and you know, in her head, you know, I'm sure. But
you know, is there ever like a way to be like, I'm also on it, or is it just like no, yeah.
Oh no, never. No, you cannot. And I remember my sister-in-law Kim, when I was on the shows and we were younger, she wanted to go see a band or like something. I don't know who it was. And she's like, go to the front and tell them who you are. Just say, don't you know who I'm like, are you out of your mind? Like the last thing you want to do, right? And she's like, it's so Cordelia. They're going to expect you to do it anyway. And I'm like, no, I'm never going to do that. Like, honestly, you know, it's funny. Your family, they want you to like do that thing and get them in and leverage yours. Like, what's the point of you being famous if you're not going to love, you know, like Kim is probably more
when I was, when I lived in New York, so I interned at BuzzFeed for a while. And me and my roommates were looking for a new apartment, right? And this realtor was like very grumpy New York older woman realtor, right? Like she didn't give a shit about anything. Right. And they were like, tell her you work at BuzzFeed. And I was like, I don't think she's going to care. And so my one roommate was like, well, you know, Ian works at BuzzFeed. And she went, what the hell is that? And I was like, this is why I didn't want us to say that.
Yeah, we don't care. Yeah. It had the exact impact you thought it would have. Yeah, it's never a win-win. If you have to tell somebody who you are.
Because either they know and they'll be impressed, or if they don't know, they don't give a shit, right? Like,
it's just gross. It's just gross.
So a thing I had been, I mean, I told you I was going to ask you this. Does it ever get like, okay, relax with like a gay man calling you queen or like mom or any of that? Like, does that ever get like annoying, or is it like cute still?
No, it's very complimentary. It's very sweet. Nobody's called me mother. I'm really okay with that. I don't know. You know, I always thought people call me queen because Queen
I think it's both.
Because of Cordelia. It was on the license plate. I don't think it's because I'm like the queen or a queen. But I'll take it. You know, whatever works. I'm fine with it.
Right, yeah.
It could be worse. But yeah, I think it's really sweet, and it's very complimentary. I know the intention.
Because I always wonder that, like, you know, if like, if like there's an actor who isn't up on gay lingo, and I could see them being like, "Why the fuck are you saying?" You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you saying mother? Like, what do you like? This is not my like. I could see someone being like, just like, you know, call me charisma. You know what I mean? But I'm glad it doesn't get like old or annoying, because like that's always my fear. I'm like, we're gonna turn this actor like.
I mean, well, I mean, it's definitely not something you can label yourself or campaign for. It's either you are or you aren't, and it's a gay community thing. So it's like whatever they say, like that's how it goes. But I lean into it because Queen C was my character, so I love that, and I accept that, and I'm honored by that. Recently I did a shout out on MyCon. So if people go to mycon.live, you can request a meet and greet, you can request a shout out. And one of the shout out requests that I got was like probably one of the sweetest shout outs I ever got. And she said that they had met, her and her best friend, that the shout out was for her best friend, not for her. And she wanted to cheer her friend up. She was going through a particularly hard time, and they had met in a Buffy
cute.
A chat room years ago, 20 years ago or more. And she said, you know, I wanted Queen C, I wanted Cordelia Chase to give this shout out by you, because Cordelia was the patron saint to all women who were smart, brave, and capable with heart. And I was like, That
That's
is
really
probably
nice.
the
Yeah.
sweetest thing I've ever heard in my life. So nice. And I mean, how
Yeah.
lucky,
I once
you know?
asked Amber Benson about that. I was like, does it get old? And she was like, it really doesn't. She was like, I really love, having the queer community come up to me and like tell me that I was important to them. And it was like,
Oh
it was when I worked
yeah.
at BuzzFeed,
We
I interviewed her for there. And we went out afterwards. And like, once we did a shot together, I was like, all right, well, can I be the gay guy that gushes for a second? She was like, of course you can. And was like super like sweet about it.
No, Amber is like
She
probably
is
one of my
just like
favorite people on
so
the planet.
ridiculously nice. Like, I will say I've
She's
lucked
very,
out though. Like
very
all of
nice.
you from either the shows that I've had on.
She's also really brilliant. She's very smart and and she's, we help each other. Like she encourages me to do things that are brave and to like she leans into the characteristic about me that I'm most insecure about, and I lean into her and the characteristic that she's most insecure about. For her, maybe boundaries are hard because she's so nice, and she's like, how do I say no and not be mean? I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And then I'll be like, not trusting my writing or something that I want to do. And then she'll be like, Charisma, you've got this. You can absolutely do this. And so together we sort of are
That
whole,
makes
like
that makes sense,
she's one
honestly,
of my
like knowing
favorite
both of
people.
you. She like yeah, she's done like a couple of things for like with the podcast and like I really have lucked out though, honestly. All of you that I've had on for either show, I have nothing bad to say about anyone from the shows. Like all of you have been you're all very gracious and like I don't know, it feels like most of at least the Buffy actors, like y'all kind of know that like the big fan base is like LGBTQ folks. Like it feels like you all know that, like, and I've never had anyone like flub or like say something inappropriate. You know what I mean? Like everyone's always like pretty well versed in like speaking about the queer community and like knowing those other fans. Like all of you are just very good at that, I would say, and it's nice.
Well, I think that when I started doing the show, none of us knew how we would be
Yeah.
received or to who we would speak, right? So you learn with time and reflection. And now we're 25 years in. It's very apparent how the show became a safe place for the LGBTQAI community. So, I think because I do so many cons, because
Yeah.
I am so engaged with fans, because I would hope to be, the safe person to have those conversations with, that you learn and you appreciate, because the show would not be relevant
Yeah.
today if it
Yeah.
wasn't for
No,
the fans, And I feel like you're right. The LGBTQAI community is so embracing of Buffy and Angel, and you guys are exceptional people as individuals doing exceptional things out in the world. And then you have all this influence, and then you revisit the things that informed you, like Evan Ross Katz and you and all the other people, that do things that are pop culture oriented, and
yeah.
it keeps it alive. It keeps churning it and passing it on, and the people that watch pass it on to their kids. And it's crazy to go to a con and then meet somebody that goes, oh, I named my cat after you, or I named my daughter after you, or Cordelia or Charisma. It's just incredibly humbling.
I also, I don't know if I was in Evan's book. He interviewed me as well for his book. I like never shut up about. I'm like, I'm quoted in the same book as Sam Michelle Gellar and Charisma Carpenter. Like, if I could put that on a resume, I would. When I had I don't know if you Janice Benson, who wrote for the show, when I had her on, and I mentioned that my mom got me into the show, she went, "Oh my God, is the show that old?" And I was like, no. My mom was not the demographic. She is 76. Like, she was an adult. I was in high school. She just happened to be that, like, my mom watched Charmed and Buffy. And she would always say, which I feel like you'll appreciate, she would always say, they remind me of Hispanic women because they're all so tough and they don't take shit from men. And that's what my mom liked about like Charmed and Buffy. And I was like that nerd that was like, oh, those shows. And then I watched an episode with her and was like, oh, wait, I fucking love this shit. Like,
No, so she would have been the same age as we were when we were me then maybe
No.
if she said no because I'm 50. So how old was she when she started
Yeah,
watching?
so
If
she
it's
was
25
50s.
years old, so she was in her 50s. So she'd be my age now. It's so interesting because a lot
Yeah.
you know, that would not be the typical demographic, right? That's not. So your mom's like super cool and very hip and like imaginative. I think that the people like I'm not even kidding. This is not pandering at all. I think anybody who watches shows has the best taste in television because they are so well written. It really does touch on universal feelings and themes about belonging, about connection, about death, about you know, being brave, about conquering your fears, about adulting, you know, doing the thing that you least want to do, but you have to do it because you have responsibilities and you have to. I think that those are sort of the things that keep the show alive and make the show so relevant today and appeal to such a wide group of people, not just a singular demographic. You know, to be honest, like it's predominantly the younger people, but you know, it's wonderful for me to hear that, you know, an unlikely demographic, you know, of a 50-year-old woman watching it when it first came out. It's like, obviously she's in tune, she gets it. And, you know, how lucky for you to have a mom like that. Must have felt good. You know, to feel understood and seen and, you know.
My mother makes sense that she has a gay son. I will say, like, it makes sense. Yeah.
It does. But I mean, in your culture, it's very difficult, isn't it? Like being
out
gay
with that charisma. Her mother, when they moved here from Puerto Rico, was a hairdresser. So she just made a bunch of gay friends. And so, like, my grandma would talk to me about her gay friends growing up. And, like, you know, growing up, I don't think I knew, like, I was just like, oh, like, I think I thought of it as, like, oh, our family's Puerto Rican and those people were gay. Like, I didn't know what that meant. But to my grandma, it was just, those were her gay friends, you know? Like, and she would talk about how she'd go out with them after work and whatever. And so, like, she always normalized it. Whereas my dad's family, they are the exact opposite. My dad's, like, very white and they're very, like, Trump supporty on that side. So it's like a weird, like, it's like whiplash going from one family to the other. Yeah.
So it makes sense you're not together.
And, like, yeah, I don't know. It just, it did make it easier. The fact that, like, even my grandma, and, like, when I came out, my grandma was like, yeah, your mom told me I cooked. Do you still want to eat? And, like, that was it. And she was, like, you know, I think, like, 75 when I came out. So, like, to her, it was just like, okay, whatever. And, like, that's lucky.
I mean, I feel like, you know, if I had a gay son, you know, part of me, I'm happy that my son is who he is. That's most important, right? So, but if I did have a gay son, it would just, or gay daughter, for that matter, you know, I would probably have the same reaction. I just feel, it just doesn't matter, you know. Just, why does it have to be an issue?
I was gonna say,
it just. But it is, and it does, and it does have to be an issue today because there are rights being taken away, and so it's very important to acknowledge that there are people that are not fitting into that, you know, particular box of white Christian.
It's actually funny. My conservative my conservative grandma, she's turning 100, and, like, it's like she's like pretty much all there, but, like, there are things she forgets just because, you know, she's turning 100. Charisma, she has somehow forgotten that I'm gay. And I'm like, whatever, she's 100, I'm not gonna, like, you know, whatever, that's fine. But, like, now I've become her.
Why? What did she say? Why aren't you married yet?
And, like,
oh gosh. Wait, I mean, you could still be married and you can still have children. She asked my parents
why I couldn't find a nice girl because I'm so handsome. I was like, Mom, did you remind her? She was like, Ian, am I, what do you want me? I was like, no, you don't have to. I don't care. Like, I don't want to, like, give her a heart attack.
I mean, I would have totally been like, Mom, she's gay, remember?
But I've become her favorite now that she's forgotten that I'm gay. I'm like, all right, I'll take it, whatever. Because she, like, there's, like, two things that she remembers that, like, when they visited, I'll take her out to lunch, whatever. And she's a little frail looking, so I'll give her my arm because I notice, like, I don't know if you have this in your family, like sometimes with older family members, the ones that are like the younger, the kids who are like my parents do a little helicoptering, and I can tell it annoys them. Like they'll be like, oh my God, they'll be so worried that like grandma's gonna fall or whatever, that they like almost like infantilize her. So I try to be like, oh, I'll give you my arm, but really I'm doing it because I don't want her to fall, right? But she remembers that. That's like the thing she remembers. She's like, oh, that Ian gave me his arm when we went out to lunch. Oh, what a charming man.
Well, also
Right,
that
yeah.
speaks to her generation,
Right.
like that's what gentlemen would do,
Yeah.
in her era. You give
Listen,
the
I know
arm.
what I was doing. I know how to charm an old lady. I worked in
I have no doubt. I feel charmed, and I'm an
charisma.
old
I am
lady,
40.
so.
We are not that much different in age. I also wanted to talk about how fucking good your hair always looked. How do you like? I am impressed all the time that like even now on the live, your hair looks fucking fantastic. On Buffy, your hair always looked great. What is like? Do you have a routine, or is it just my hair is just naturally like this?
Well, thank you. Number one, it's funny that you say that because I think it changed like every season. Um, I don't have. I mean, I was just. This is the hair that I was given, and yay. um, it's very cooperative. It's very helpful. It retains curl well. I don't know. Where's my
Seriously.
hair commercial? Seriously, where's my hair? I have a girlfriend named Allison, and Allison is always saying that to me, so it's really sweet. It's a bit long right now. I'm actually in a moment trying to figure out what do I want to do with it. And then, there is a side of me that just fully wants to embrace, like, if the gray comes in, just do the gray. Because I grew up in Vegas, and I was around like a lot of indigenous people, like not a lot, but like it's a big part of our culture, like turquoise,
Living there,
not
yeah.
our culture, but in Nevada, there are aspects of Nevada that are very country and earthy and grounded, um and I feel like I'm a little bit hippie in myself. I love turquoise, so I always imagine having like long gray hair and turquoise and denim shirts and like even pearls mixed in too, like all the things. But everybody's like, God, no, do not let your hair go gray. But I mean, there will come a
Yeah.
time when I am totally gray and I will have long gray hair. I think so. But I'm at a place
Oh, it
now
is
where
really
it's
long.
a
Oh shit.
bit down there. It is really long. So I'm kind of trying to figure out, I'm going back to LA in March to work on a project. And I'm going to go see my guy out there, Robert Ramos, and I'm going to ask him what I should do. Like, should I cut it off? I mean, is it too long? At what age do like there's an age and how long your hair should be? I don't know. This is so superficial. It's such a silly topic, but thank you.
I will say I have an older
nonetheless.
relative that she has like I thought she was bleaching her hair, and she was like, oh no, you can't tell in pictures, but my hair went gray. It's just my gray is white. And I think it looks great on her. And she's older than you. She's like 55 or 60, but it looks fucking fantastic on her. It really does. And like some people can just like rock it and look hot, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm that person. I'm not there yet. There's so much discussion around age and women and, you know, being on natural
Yeah.
or, nipping and tucking or Botoxing, injecting, all the different things. And I just think that my internal compass will always prevail. So whatever it is that I'm feeling comfortable doing, I will do when I'm ready to do it. But at this point in time, I am absolutely not going to go gray. Well, I don't have enough gray to do it, but I am getting silver, and I'm like, what? But so I'm in
Same.
covering
I get a little.
for now.
I have a spray. I have a spray.
You? Nice. Thank you for being honest and meeting me here at this place. Thank you. And then in terms of like nipping and tucking, like I'm fine with doing Botox, and whoever wants to do Botox or filler, more power to you. Whatever makes you feel good, right? But I'm afraid of the knife. I'm really afraid of the knife. I'm just so afraid that it would alter my appearance in such a way that I wouldn't be able to go back. And I just, you know, it's a very big thing to trust, and it's permanent. And once you've done it, it's like there's no, you know, with injectables, you can like, or fillers or whatever, you can dissolve, or you can make it not permanent, right? So I think that's kind of what I like, is like there'll come a time when I'll just be like, I can't be bothered. Like, this is it, you know?
You know, I think
I'm not there
you
yet,
had reposted this on your Instagram story too. I like really appreciated what Madonna said. Did you saw that, right? I think you reposted it. It was like,
well, what part?
it was like
the
most recent statement she put out, how she was like, I was so excited to introduce like the first out trans woman with the award, and yet people are talking about how I looked and like my surgery and blah blah blah, and like how misogynist that is. And I, you know, I feel like you and I can understand. I don't know. I always have a respect for Madonna. Like, I'm not her biggest fan, but I always at least respect her. At the baseline, I respect her, and I don't forget how much she did for the gay community, especially in the 80s. She was like one of the only people talking about it, being very frank. So like, I feel, and you know, no hate at all to anyone, but I feel like sometimes a younger queer generation maybe doesn't realize how much she like did help us back in the day. So like, I'm always like, just don't make fun of how she looks. Like, you can be like, I don't like this song or whatever, but I don't like when people comment on like people's appearances, you know, unless it's to be like, oh, I like that thing you're wearing, or, you know, me being like, your hair looks great. Like, I would never be like, oh, why did you wear that? You know, I'm like, what's the fucking point of that?
Right. Well, I think there's a standard that is a patriarchal standard, right? That we've all been exposed to and grew up with, especially your age and my age. And I think what I've had to check is my own internalized misogyny, my own internalized standard that was created by the society of the patriarchy, right? So it happens a lot. It happens a lot. And even commenting on appearances altogether in the workplace is just not acceptable. It's not supposed to be a thing anymore. And people are like, why can't I say somebody looks great? Or because ultimately it shouldn't matter, but it does. You know, it's a fact of life. We're going to warm ourselves to somebody who's more attractive than not. I mean, that's just, you look at children, they're, you know, the way they gravitate, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the humanity of it, but we have to evolve our personalities and our thought processes around those natural prejudices. But yeah, I think we have a long way to go there. And I really do want to embrace anybody that wants to go about, it may not be the choice I would make, but everybody is allowed to make those choices for themselves. And whether you're Paulina Porskova, who refuses to do anything and just really wants to champion seeing more women her age do the natural route, go great. Don't do Botox, don't get a facelift. Like, why do we have to continue perpetrating, you know, the same patriarchal view of beauty standards, right? Why do we have to do that? And then there's also this whole other side of the group that goes like, why do we want to let ourselves go? Why can't, and why is it considered letting yourself go? I don't really have the answer. I'm open to having the conversation. I just do me.
You know,
I just stay out of it.
That's what I try to do. I like, you know, I'm talking to you about it, but I like, on like social media, I'm just like, let me just stay out of this, because I feel the same way you do. It's like, I don't have the answer, but I try just not to take part in it, right? Because it's easy not to be an asshole.
So, like, you know that it's wrong. Like, the only thing that I think is wrong is, you know, it starts to be divisive, and you're a part of two camps. You become a camp that's like pro plastic surgery and whatever you want to do, and then you get the pro, like, oh, if you're doing plastic surgery, then you're less than, and you're not as evolved, or you're not as accepting of yourself, or there's a judgment around that. And I think I feel in a center, which is, if you want to do plastic surgery and that's your jam, then do that. And I don't want to feel from other women that they're going to jump on me because I
Yeah.
chose to get my eyes done or inject my lips or do Botox in my forehead. I don't want to feel like I don't want to feel judged. Especially by my own
Yeah.
gender, you know, like why are women attacking other women and judging them? Like we have enough judgment already. Can we all be together? Like, let's just help each other. Oh my God, I'm such a hippie. And not realistic. It's just not. We're gonna always have judgment, and people are gonna always say their piece, and we just have to have
Charisma, you
the
sound like me
backbone
when I
to
talk about
tolerate it.
like the gay community, because like I don't know if you saw when the movie Bros came out, there was a lot of like it was very polarizing, and I'm very like the Billy Eichner
Bros?
gay rom-com. Yeah,
It's
came
called
out like a few months ago.
Bros.
Oh, came out a
No,
few
I
months
didn't
ago.
see it,
Yeah.
but I know who
It was
Billy
like
is.
it was him and Luke McFarlane, and there was a bunch of like Deborah Messing makes a cameo as herself. So like if I made that movie, you would be making a cameo as yourself when I make my gay rom com. And like it was cute, it was funny, but like people were so like mean about it because they didn't like him or like whatever, and they're like,
What?
oh look, like Billy Eichner, his movie flopped, and I'm like, but it's a gay rom com. Like it doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It can just be. We don't have to like want to bring it down because you think he's annoying or whatever. You know, I feel very like, don't do that. Oh yeah.
Oh, I did not know there was any controversy about it. But what's interesting about that is there's not a lot
Yeah.
of rom-coms about two gay men. And
Yeah.
isn't that revolutionary? Do you understand how difficult it is to get a movie made?
Right.
Do you know how hard that is? So can we champion that? You know, like it celebrates. It's so often the Gina Davis Institute, which really talks about representation. If can we just champion the fact that there's representation? Like we have it on TV. There's like what one like there's just not a lot of representation for the gay community. So like, why are we tearing
Charisma.
that down?
I'm so glad that we're doing this and becoming best friends because you're so fucking right. And it makes me nuts that people don't understand that. But I do wonder if it's maybe because of our generation, of our generation growing up, like we know that there wasn't any of that. You know what I mean? Like on TV, it was like Will and Grace, and that was it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there still isn't. There's not a lot of representation. There's not enough. That whole thing. There was a commercial, not a commercial, but there was a commercial that was on TV, and it was like it was a black Rapunzel, and that's Rapunzel is like a German-based fairy tale, right? And everybody is like, I live in the Midwest, and not a lot of progressive here, and the whole opinion is like, why are we? We've swung too far to incorporate. It's too progressive. Like, why am I seeing all this color? Like they only make up, and I'm like going, oh my God, do you understand how important representation is? If that one little girl is watching the TV and sees her reflection, like that means that all things are possible for her too. And if you're living in a whitewashed world and you're a black person, that's oppression. And we have to understand that. And that goes for the gay community, that goes for, the trans community, for any community that feels is marginalized.
No, yeah, and like
is
I feel like so. If you're in the suburbs again now, that's where I am now, and I was in New York for 10 years. Isn't it so like moving back there after being away for so long, being like, oh right, this is what it's like in the suburbs. Like people, like I assume that everyone's like a progressive and like kind of has the same views, and then I talk to people, I'm like, oh shit, no, they do not.
It's so interesting because I went to dinner with my parents, and my brother was visiting, and we went to support a neighbor. They opened a new place, so we went to go hang out, and the bartender had her daughter sitting at a little kid's table, coloring while she finished her shift.
Right, yeah.
I don't know how long that little girl was there for. This little girl, she was like a beautiful little black girl, and she was like curious about our table and kind of leaning over and leaning in or whatever. And my dad's like, "Oh, you're so pretty," and I was like, "Dad," and I'm kind of like that annoying kid, and I'm like trying to you know, and then there was another thing that my dad said. It was something along the lines of like, you know, you're prettier than your mom. And I was like, Dad, what are you saying? And then my stepmom's like, wait, what did he say that's wrong? And so then, but it was such a sweet thing that she even asked me. But I know, like, she was like annoyed because I'm like picking on my dad, because my dad's just being my dad. He's 7 years old. I'm not going to change him. There's no wokeness about like whatever that means. But, you know, there's just that conversation, right? Where you're going, why is that not okay to comment on her being a pretty little girl? Doesn't everybody want to be complimented and be told they're pretty? And I just said, sure. I said, but what we're trying to strive for today, especially with little girls, is to comment, and even little boys, is to comment on, even when we're raising our children, is to comment on the work effort and their character, you know, how, gosh, that was really kind of you and so thoughtful of you to do that. Or, you know, we comment on those things rather than the way they look, which they have no control over, right? We have no control over how we look, unless you do surgery. But the point is that, you know, we want to comment on that stuff. And then, okay, that was fine. And then like, okay, why is it a problem to comment on the daughter and the mother? And I said, because there is it engenders competition among women based on looks, which is a superficial thing and nobody has any control over. And if we're creating a hierarchy, that's patriarchy. And we're trying to get away from the patriarchy and what this beauty standard that is identified by blah, 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 right? So we don't want to create competition between mothers and daughters. You know what I mean? Like, why does this little girl have to grow up thinking that I'm in competition with her? Why aren't we engendering,
and
love?
Like,
and
I appreciate that you're also the like liberal buzzkill with your family, because I am too.
I mean, they're over it.
I imagine what they say about me, like, I'm like, they're probably like, oh, so glad Ian isn't here to like tell us what we're saying wrong, but like
wrong, right? And I don't want to make people feel like that. But
I had to have a talk with my parents about because my nephew is, oh Jesus, he's 8, I think, or 9. And they'll be like, oh, look, he's flirting with that pretty little girl. I'm like, don't say that. Like, he's just a kid. He's just like having fun with his friends. And they're like, oh, well, he's going to marry a pretty blonde girl he likes. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, we don't.
It's so Matt TV, that's something on his account that he would say, like, everybody is, all these, conservatives are worried about sexualization of the LGBTQAI community and the binary and the trans and blah, blah. And it's like, well, I'm kind of sexualizing. Aren't you exactly doing the same thing?
I was going to say,
these
that's like
acceptable
allowed. That's
terms,
okay,
you know?
I've had to do that. And like, there was once, I've never been more proud to be the liberal buzzkill though, Charisma, than at my aunt's birthday party. My nephew at the time, I want to say he was like 6 or 5. They had gotten her like a tiara. It was her 75th. He wanted to put it on, and my aunt was holding him, and she went, no, that's for girls, and looked at me, because I feel like she could feel me, and she like looked at me, and I was like, you know what I'm going to say? And so then she looked back at him and was like, okay, anyone can wear it if you want to wear it. And I was like, thank you. And I tweeted that shit, and I had so many people being like, oh, this is a lie, this didn't happen. I was like, what? Yeah, like, I don't know what people were mad about. Yeah.
It happened. 100% happened. Yeah. I mean, I just, one of the hardest things for me is having an idea of what justice should look like, having an idea about how it should be in general, right? And being in acceptance that the way I see the world and what I think it should be like is not what everybody else thinks. And it's very hard for me to then not come across judgmental also, right? Like, and I don't want to do that. And I don't want my dad to feel shame, and I don't want to shame him. And I don't want my stepmom to be like, you are such a pain in the ass. Like, I can't take you anywhere without you making us feel like we're wrong. And I don't want my family to feel like that either. And I don't know what the answer is per se, not at this moment, but I think maybe it is maybe not volunteering that information in the moment, maybe having a discussion later privately or something, and just say, you know, Dad, I just want to talk to you about this thing that happened. And, you know, I just think that my impulse in
Right.
that moment is to correct it, you know, and that's
Right.
annoying.
We are,
I'm
but
annoying.
it's, I don't know what to do about it.
I think to a certain degree it's arrogant as well, and I just have to keep it in track and keep it on, you know. I just, yeah, it's just really hard. It's just really hard to like see an injustice, or to try to see like, you know, you never know what is going to impact a person or a child, and you want to immediately remedy a situation. And I wish there were things that I knew when I was raising my
Yeah.
son that I know today that I didn't then, and the things that I implemented that in retrospect were probably more damaging. You know, like I remember like the nanny was such a big deal with like the go sit in your naughty corner or whatever, the naughty step or the naughty circle or whatever the naughty thing was. And, or, you know, the timeout thing. And, you know, I just really wish I was less interested in discipline and more interested in the conversation about why this is hurtful. You know, and I feel like in a way, I still haven't bridged that gap in my personality in dealing with things that I think need adjusting. It's like, I don't want to make Donovan wrong. I didn't mean to make Donovan wrong, and I don't want to make my dad wrong. So I just have to, I think
And
it's
it really
always,
is
I
a
guess, the
balance. Like
delivery.
sometimes I will try to remind myself to pick my battles with family. Like I'm like, oh, that, right? But like you
I'm going
do.
to pick all the battles at once. Bring it on. Fill the cup. Let's go.
I'm going to do a shot, and then I'm going to tell everyone what they did wrong. Like,
so arrogant, right? Like it's just, it's really,
and it's hard.
it's something
Like
to look at.
you
It's
are, I
definitely
know you
something
are
to look
like
at.
me. You're very online, so it's like hard because it's like we interact. I mean, I guess I'm sure you have people that are not so nice about it, but we interact mostly with people that like have the same values as us and kind of like are mostly. Oh, really?
I don't. I think I've realized that I have, and I don't know why they follow me, but I have a lot of conservative followers. A lot of Trumpers follow me. A lot of pro-lifers follow me. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know why,
Yeah.
because I pretty much rail all the time against all of this stuff, which I'm grateful that I have the ability to do that. But you know, I also think that there are costs to that, you know, in my industry. Oh, she's too Me Too, or she's too Time's Up, or she's
Right.
too
Yeah.
LGBTQAI, or she's too this, too that, too
Yeah. Yeah.
too much of a loudmouth or whatever. She's like too much, just too much. And I have a friend that also, you know, shout out to Alex. He's always reminding me, you know, the world needs you. The world needs people like you to be too much. You know, you're not too much. You're just right. You know, and paraphrasing, but no, I appreciate that. You know, I appreciate that because I don't know how else to be
Right.
than to be authentically myself. And
Right.
you know, if people want to unfollow and
Yeah.
hate on me, then they can.
It doesn't
Whatever.
happen that often, but every once in a while I do randomly get like I had some, and I don't imagine how, again, like how you could watch Buffy or Angel and like, right, like, oh well, Cordelia would hate you, Buffy would hate you, every woman on all of these shows would hate you. But I had someone who like once was really mad at me during lockdown, and they were like, you're getting too political for a podcast that's about Buffy. And I was like, I don't know what show you watched, but like it was always political. And he was like, no, it never was. And I was like, I don't even know what, like, right, like I don't know what to tell you if you don't think it wasn't at least right.
What didn't have a point of view, totally. Yeah, I mean, there are universal themes, and I think that's the magic of TV and film. And, you know, again, like the Gina Davis Institute talks about, like the best way to bring about conversation between, you know, the LGBTQAI community and their parents, or to bring about conversation about abortion, or to bring about, you know, it's telling stories that are impactful and there's messaging behind it. I mean, that is 100%
right, like,
our shows.
I'm always shocked. I had a friend that used to he was an artist for X-Men, and he said he would say the same thing, that he was always shocked that like there were conservative X-Men fans, because like X-Men is all about like a group of people that like aren't accepted by society, and like he would be like, right, yeah, they're like, yeah,
with the
put the X-Men in jail.
It's Hunger Games for the elitists.
Before I let you go, let me see. We have some questions. Let me look at them. All right, that's weird.
How do you look at them?
Wait, that's so weird. It says there's 4, but when I click, it says you have no questions.
It's so hard not to correct and to come from a place of understanding. Yeah. I mean, we can scroll or
correct.
Clothing has no gender. What was expressed so eloquently? I don't know if Amanda's still in the room, but maybe she can say something. I don't know what we were talking about.
Greg is here. So hi, Greg. Trisma and I were talking about you the other day. I said how I was like, oh my God, we have a friend in common. Yes.
Gregory Lilly?
Yeah, he's here.
He's here?
He just said X-Men truly was the gay experience.
Oh, I love that.
How the hell did you two meet? That's so random.
I love him. Clubhouse. We met on Clubhouse.
Is that still going, or is that like not going anymore?
You know, for me personally, I'm barely ever on it. I mean, I haven't been on it in forever, but the people that I met there, I'm still in touch with. So it was like a positive experience for me. And I still do tune in because there's like, I watch TED Talks a lot, and I follow entrepreneurs. You know, I have notifications when an entrepreneur will come in on and talking about startups. And I think it's a great platform. And you know how Twitter ended up incorporating a Clubhouse vibe. You know, so obviously it was original, you know, it was an original platform. It was an original thing, and people love technology, right? So Curly says representation is so important in validating.
Yeah, we actually just got a few. Do you want to read a couple? When you look back on your character, perfect. Cordelia, what makes you most happy about getting to play her? From Alexander J.
Hi, Alexander J. What makes me, most excited to have played her. Well, I think the storyline for her, just the arc of the character, was so vast and so, you know, one of the things that I'm preaching to the choir, I know you all know this, but as an actor, to be able to do kind of like, to be scared and to do comedy and then to cry or be touching or do special effects or fight, you know, that was a show that basically you got to use all of your training as an actor. You get to really hone those skills, and it really was a wonderful way to, or training ground, you know, for all of those things. So I think that playing Cordelia in that sense gave me a sharpened tool.
That's really nice. I like that. I do feel like you guys, like, I'm surprised y'all aren't in Marvel movies, honestly, because you guys got to do all that shit before there were like Marvel movies of like the action and then the funny and then the crying and then like everything all at once. And I always feel like those shows spoiled me for that, because the credit I give is, yes, the writing was also great, but also great writing could be poorly acted, right? Like, and so a good combination of both is what made it so great, I think, is like, oh, you can have like good writing and then the good acting, because I've definitely seen things that are well written where it's like, ooh, or like good actors doing what they can with like crappy material, you know? And I think that's why I always say like the Buffy show spoiled me, because that's what I want out of everything. And yeah, we don't get that often.
Yeah, I think it was I think Veronica Mars after Buffy and Angel, I think Veronica Mars probably, for me personally, starring in that show as well for a season, was the next best thing, on par in terms of wit and stuff. But, you know, it didn't have the fighting. It didn't, you know, do all of the special effects. It just, you know, being able to wield a sword and a crossbow and, you know, stake a vampire and deliver funny lines and then be touching and all of that stuff. It just hasn't happened since. And really is kind of to have peaked so soon. It's kind of hard. It's kind of difficult to still,
Well,
cope with.
it's funny that you brought up Veronica Mars because that's also one of my favorite shows. And I did like that you got to have, it was like you thought she was just the mean stepmom, but then there was like more to her. And I was always so bummed that they killed you off.
You mean naked?
I was so bummed they killed
A
you off.
lot
And
of
what was it? It was the
naked.
beginning of season 3, wasn't it? I think.
I don't remember. I don't know. But I loved it. I think I was working off of, I don't know how you pronounce his name properly, but is it Jason Bahe?
I
He's
think
now
something
on
like that.
Chicago PD. So it's kind of, he plays the gravelly voice detective on Chicago PD, which I actually ended up being on also. But, working with him and watching Californication with him, he was so outstanding. It's really funny to have been able to be on shows that had these other actors that went on to do bigger and better, not necessarily better, but like, they exploded as stars, before. It's just kind of interesting, Amanda Seyfried
I think
was
so,
on,
yeah. Seyfried?
am I
I don't
saying
know.
her name
Yeah.
right? Seyfried. She was on Veronica Mars,
You
she
know,
was Mean Girl, and then she
I
goes on
I
and
made
does
my
all
one
that she's
ex,
doing.
we went through Buffy and Angel, and then we were going through Veronica Mars. And Veronica Mars, I didn't realize, because like I love that show, but I just don't know it as well as like Buffy and Angel. Um, I didn't realize there's so many famous people on Veronica Mars too. Jessica Chastain,
So
like what?
many famous people.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's really
I find that
fascinating,
so
isn't
like
it?
fun to just like,
And
oh, there's that person that like is now wildly famous.
I know, like, oh my God, I didn't remember that was that person. That is fascinating. And I also really, I really have to hand it to those castmates, those cast members of Veronica Mars. I had never really been on a show with such well-adjusted people, humans, that are already very young people having a tremendous amount of success, but already instituting give back. I really was impressed by that. Some of this stuff, I remember being on Buffy and being really kind of bogged down with what am I going to do with this influence? What am I going to
Yeah.
do? Like, I've always wanted to be a part of what? And I always thought it was like burn, like a burn victim unit or something like that. I just like, what would be the worst possible thing that, but I think those things kind of came to me naturally and organically. I work with the Rona Thompson Foundation with Maya Thompson, whose son passed away from neuroblastoma 4 days before his 3rd birthday. So by sheer organic connection, that obviously, because it has to be that way. It can't be something because it has to be something that you're touched by, right? Or else there's no passion or authenticity behind it. And then Thirst Project, which is like a huge thing for me too, bringing safe, clean drinking water around the world. And, water is not a privilege, it's a human right. And so I think that those two things kind of made life better for me. But those kids on Veronica Mars were already in tune so early in their careers. And I just was so impressed with them. I've literally never, I think that's what's so, it gives me great confidence in the new generations coming up, because in my son's generation and so on, because there are really good kids that are being forced to be political and become influencers and really do leverage their popularity in positive ways. And I'm just so in awe
this
of
is
that.
like a tiny version of that, but like I was working at Barnes and Noble for the last 5 years. I just recently got out of retail again. But like I started an LGBTQ YA section for the young adult like books, because I would get a lot of like younger like teens and kids asking, and I've had a lot of authors on the podcast, so I was like, I asked my boss, I was like, can I just make a section? And he was like, yeah, if you want to. And it was all me, and like those kids were so cool. There was this little like tiny queer girl who came up to me and she was like, can I? And she looked me up and down, so cute. She's dressed like a little old dad, and she went, oh wait, you're gay. I can talk to you about gay stuff. And I was like, yes, you can. And she was like, great, I want to ask you for some gay books. And like she's like this like tiny 14-year-old queer girl, and was like very confident. And at the end of our conversation, I was like, you're really cool. I like how confident and smart you are. She went, I know, thanks. And I was like, I love this. And like I once had these 2 girls, I was so mad. They came up to me, they were like, just so you know, there's a lady that came up to us while we were in the LGBTQ section that said she was going to pray for us. so we didn't go to hell. And I was like, and I got furious, and they were like, oh, don't get too mad. She's just an idiot. And like, they like didn't care. They were like, oh, she's stupid. And I was like more upset than they were.
Then they
You know
were.
what I mean?
That's
Right,
incredible.
right. That is
Well
like,
adjusted
to be able to
kids.
be like, yeah, she's crazy, but like, whatever. I think I would have been way more sensitive when I was like 16 or 17.
I know. I got some questions here that I didn't realize I had. Was there ever okay, so Power of
Hi,
X-Men
Paul.
wrote, was there ever talk of you returning to Buffy for a guest spot? Wait. Oh, no, I did not. I never did any crossover work. Ultimate J2D2 said, what do you think about Margot on The Magicians being sort of a more unrestrained Cordelia case?
So
I
yeah,
don't
she's
watch
a
it. Do you? I have no
she's a
idea.
co-host on my. So
The
my tattoo
Magicians.
is from that show. It's a key I got with my best friend. Summer Bishel is one of the co-hosts on my podcast, and The Magicians, it's wild charisma. It's like, it was a 5-season sci-fi show, very good, very well acted. It reminded me of Buffy if Buffy had been written by women and gay men. Like, that's basically like, yeah. Right.
Why didn't they
And
call
I
me?
had like, there was a day when I was
Rude.
watching it, I was stoned, and I was like, I bet someone on this show is a big Buffy fan. And I like searched the showrunner, Sarah Gamble, who also does You, is a huge Buffy fan. And she said The Magicians, like, she was influenced by Buffy. And Summer Bishel played Margot. And as she's been on our Angel coverage, and she's always like, it is wild how much my character was inspired by Cordelia. Like, it's so obvious. And she definitely has like your energy too. Like, she's like very, very good.
Well, now I have to watch that. Alexander J. Bird says, when you look back on your character Cordelia, what makes you most happy about getting to play her? I think we answered that. Charisma, what was it like reunited with Allison Hannigan in season 4 of Angel? In season 4 of Angel, oh, it was fun. Because I'm
Why the question?
feline, fine. What actors and or shows, movies inspired Cordelia to go into acting before she fell into her role at Angel Investigations? I don't know who inspired Cordelia to be an actor. I think she probably thought that it would give her fame and fortune. Do you have a favorite Cordelia Chase line? I have so many favorite lines by Cordelia. I don't need the fringe vote when she was running for homecoming queen. That's just propaganda is founded out by the ugly and less deserving. That I'm glad to know you've seen the softer side of Sears. Ew.
I love that you know these. I love that you know them.
How did you manage to keep Cordelia's core personality throughout such a profound character? Because she's me. Cordelia, fact, Cordy had the best character growth in the Buffyverse. So I think that's an interesting, and I always thought that too. And then I remember when Wesley first showed up on Angel season 1, he was like this bumbling idiot, and the axe was in the wall, and he was doing all this physical comedy. And then he turned into this rogue demon hunter, and then he turned into an intellectual, and then he turned into a badass, and he was grumpy and mean and sadistic, and then warm, like. He too had a lot of growth. I think, to be fair, a lot of us grew a lot.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, so
I do. I would say he has him, Wesley and Willow would be tied for second for me, but I do think, like, Cordelia, I would say is one of the best arcs in general.
I think it's one of the best. I think that's the differential. It's just sort of like, I think because it's like you really don't like her, and that's such a visceral response when you don't like somebody. It's just so in your gut, like, I can't stand it, what a bitch, whatever. And then to slowly but surely somebody just gets under the skin, and you end up rooting for them and loving them and appreciating them as a person. You know, I think that makes it the best and most interesting, because it's visceral, because it goes from to in your heart, and you're like, I can't believe that I like this character. I can't believe she's right. Oh my God. I hate that I like her now. You know, like I think that's what makes
this
it
is
so
random,
bad.
but are you a horror fan at all? Like, do you watch the Scream movies? It's okay if you don't.
Of course, I saw them. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call myself like a diehard, but my son is a big horror film,
Because
and I showed him
so
all the horror
I
films and
because I
stuff, so I
always
know
think
them.
like
But why?
Gail Weathers, like Courtney Cox's portrayal of Gail Weathers, and your portrayal of I almost said your portrayal of Charisma Carpenter, your portrayal of Cordelia, like those are two like character arcs. Like she got to, they are characters that in a lesser series would have like been one-offs and like died real quick, you know, and wouldn't have gotten to like flourish. And I mean, Gail Weathers more so is like more of a like asshole up front. Like she's just an asshole, but like that's okay. You know what I mean? Like you could be a jerk. That's okay. Doesn't mean you like deserve to be the one getting stabbed. And I just like that we like those have always been two big characters for me in how I write. Like I always want to write characters that are like that, where it's like they are sharp-witted, they don't take your bullshit, but like also they're usually right. And I like that.
Um, yeah, I'm a fan
Yes.
of that as well. But I think we gotta
Yes.
wrap it up because
I told you
we
20
went
minutes
way
ago I was going to
over.
let you go. I'm sorry.
I know, but I'm a chatty Cathy. I can't help it. Say
Oh,
hi.
baby.
This is Chris, my vicious animal. Hi, Grace. That's the worst breath in the world. It's so bad. Honestly. Oof. How do we wrap this up? So, what happens next with this live? It's just live. It's not recorded.
It'll go on my
great. If
grid.
you did,
Like I usually just keep them on the grid, so people can rewatch them if they want. And yeah, what happens next is our next collab, Charisma.
Well, thanks for having me on, and then will I have the
I
option
don't
to pin this
know
to
if
my
you
grid
will,
on my
but
phone?
if you'd like, I can like do a screen record and send it to you if you want to post it on MyCon. Just let me. You can DM me later and let me know. All right. Well, Charisma, this was wonderful talking to you. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me, and I will speak with you later. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.